Let's try this tarot thing again. It's not again for you, it's again for me. I tried it on Saturday with coffee, and whatever it is that connects your brain to your mouth was not working for me. I think beer might be my magic feather, so this time will be better than that time. Today I am drinking Sierra Nevada BFD. It's a hoppy blonde ale, which y'all know what BFD stands for, right? Hey guys, what's up? What's going on? What's happening? I feel like I haven't talked to you in a while. I am Chevy Rell, or Chevis. I'm Chevy Rell on the interwebs. For those of you who have found your way to this video because the word tarot is in the title, I feel like I have to explain a little bit. I am the host of the Chevy Rell Stuff podcast. That is a fiber podcast. Fiber meaning wool and alpaca and yarn and natural fibers, not like broccoli. There is a whole nother world that many people don't know exist, and we are the knitters. For you knitters, because I know someone will ask, this is my snow melt shawl by Helen Stewart. It was a mystery knit along. It was amazing. I highly recommend it. And then my hat is Hearth and Stone by Maria from Ninja Chicken. Those of you who are just here for the tarot and have no idea what knitting is, no worries. This is going to be about tarot. I just felt the need to explain, because if you thought I did other tarot videos and you go to my other videos, all you're going to see is yarn and be like, what the hell? How this video came about is knitters have this thing called Ravelry, which is a website that is basically like the encyclopedia of every and all knitting, crocheting pattern you can imagine. So if you're a knitter, if you happen to be a knitter and did not know of this knitting podcast thing or of Ravelry, you should go check that out. On my group thread on Ravelry, I have an Ask Me Anything
thread.
On my group page on Ravelry, maybe that's it. Whatever. There's this place where viewers can ask me questions, and I do talk about the fact that I dabble in the tarot. On that Ask Me Anything thread, I received a question that said, I would like to learn how to read tarot cards. Can you give me any information, like best cards for beginners, your favorite cards, books to read, etc.? So that's where this video is coming from. I am aware that other people may find this useful outside of the fiber world. So hello and welcome to this little neck of the woods you didn't know existed. I would like to start out, full disclaimer, I am in no way, shape, or form an expert. I've only been reading for about 2 years. I got my first deck in the spring of 2017. I read mostly for myself. I have read for others occasionally, but most of my practice is just me doing self-readings. I will draw a card daily. I don't do many spreads. I just started getting into those. We'll talk about it. But this really is for people who have never read tarot before and sort of like want to dip their toe in the water and see if they like it or not. I started with zero experience. I have always been into the occult. I have always been drawn to tarot cards. I've always wanted to try them. I finally bit the bullet and did the research and bought my first deck, and I will let you know what I've learned. First off, they are not scary. People are scared of tarot cards. I think we can thank the movie industry for that. Tarot cards are often depicted in the movies as being fortune telling. You know, you have the woman with the scarf on her head and the big hoop earrings and the crystal ball, and she always throws the death card and the ominous music is playing and someone's gonna die, and it's not really like that. What the cards do, at least for me, because everyone's different, what they do is it's sort of like, it's a divination tool. And the way I see it is it's the universe's way of showing me maybe some lessons or certain things that I should be mindful of, or you should be mindful of, or we should be mindful of. And it might get you to think about things in a different way. It might help direct you in some tough situations that you don't know what your next step to take is. So any tarot card reader, in my opinion, that tries to tell your future, you will have a baby, someone's going to die, you're going to get married next year, they're kind of like not my jam. But that's just me. Everybody's different. Throughout your research, you will see a lot of different readers. There are readers that look like soccer moms. There are readers who look like me. There are witches. There are gothy people. There are a lot of people across the pond that read tarot, being how it originated, at least they think, over yonder. Much like our fiber podcasts, there are like a million of us.
Okay, maybe not a million.
Hundreds, though. Probably safe to say hundreds. And we all have our handful of favorites that we enjoy, and then we have those that we don't watch because they drive us nuts. It's okay. Everybody's different. Tarot is the same way. People have different outlooks on tarot. People read cards differently. You will find what works for you throughout your journey. I'd like to start out with a little history. Those of you who watch my podcast know that I am a big lover of learning and education. It's not going to be bad. The truth is, nobody truly knows the history of tarot. What they believe is that the first deck of cards, which eventually turned into what we call tarot today, was a game deck. It was a game called Triumph, and they believe that it's a lot like Bridge. It was back in the 1400s. It went through many changes throughout many years, and the first occult style deck, as in the first deck that someone published for a divination tool or as a divination tool, they believe was around the late 1700s. Others believe that the practice originated in Egypt because you're drawing your intuition from the picture on the card. A lot of people feel that it has roots in Egypt because of the hieroglyphics. They believe that it's sort of like a hieroglyphical key of life, if you will. There are other people who believe that it has roots in Kabbalah, so we don't really know. There are 3 common systems of tarot. There is the Tarot of Marseille, the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot, and the Book of Thoth, or Thoth. Everyone says it different. By far the most popular deck or system of reading is the Rider-Waite-Smith version. It is the deck that you will find most people saying is best to start with. The first Rider-Waite-Smith deck was published in 1809, the end of 1809. Some people round up and say 1910. There was a mystic and poet by the name of A.E. Waite, or Arthur Waite, and he was very much so into the occult and esoteric studies. He was a member of the Hermetic Order of Golden Dawn, which was an organization that was devoted to the study of esoteric, occult, metaphysic, paranormal. And it was actually founded by 3 men who were Freemasons. So I did not delve into that anymore, but I did find that very interesting. I'm parched. Stand by. While he was part of the Golden Dawn, he met a gal by the name of Pamela Colman Smith. She was an artist. He commissioned her to do the artwork for this tarot deck that he had in mind, and she did. They then had it published by Rider, hence Rider-Waite-Smith. A lot of people you will hear call it just the Rider-Waite deck. I will always call it the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. The reason that I will always include Pamela Colman Smith's name is because I really enjoyed her story. She really wanted to make something of herself in the world of art. She died penniless, not popular, her career never took off. And here so many of us have the original Rider-Waite-Smith deck with her artwork on it. Even though she died not knowing what the art she did for that deck would become, I'm really hoping that she's somewhere in the universe seeing how much joy it has brought to so many people. And I really want people to know who she is. I think her story's pretty cool. It'll always be the Rider-Waite-Smith deck in my house. The Rider-Waite-Smith deck is the deck that most people think of when you think of tarot. It's the deck that Urban Outfitters prints cards on like tapestries and t-shirts and shit. Like that's what you think of when you think of tarot. I have the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. This is actually the pocket edition, so it is smaller and can fit in your hand. There are 78 cards in a standard Rider-Waite-Smith deck. You have 22 major arcana, and that's going to be things like the Fool. The Fool is looked at as the beginning. He is actually a 0 in the number system. He is the start of it. This card shows up when you have a good example would be maybe a college student going to school for the first time and leaving home. He's excited. He has this zest for this new adventure. He's totally oblivious to anything else. I mean, look at him. He's going to walk off this cliff. He has his little bag packed. A lot of times he's virginal. He has his little sidekick going with him. He has no idea the shit that he's gonna meet along the way on this journey. There's good, there's bad. The Magician is in the number 1 slot, and this is probably one of the most recognized cards. This is on a lot of tapestries and pillows and t-shirts and things like that. The Death card is another card that everyone always asks about. The Death card, like I said before,
Thank you to the movie industry.
does not mean that someone is going to die. What the Death card means is change. We have reached the end of something. Maybe the Death card shows up and it's because you've lost your job, but you've then drawn an Ace of Pentacles or an Ace of Wands, and that means a new beginning. So in tarot, a lot of times it's the ebbs and flows, the ups and downs of life, endings and beginnings. One door closes, another one opens. And depending on what cards are drawn for you, it tells you where in your journey you are. It's ever changing. After the 22 major arcana, there are 56 minor arcana. The minor arcana is where the tarot deck starts to resemble the modern playing card deck that we know today. You have your wands, your pentacles, your cups, and your swords. I didn't look it up. I think diamonds are pentacles, swords are spades, wands are clubs, and cups are hearts. That could be wrong. But they do correlate with our playing cards today. The other common factor with playing cards today is court cards. But all 4 of the suits go from 1 to 10, and then they have a page, which is, well, they have a page and a knight, which is like the jack, and then they have a king and a queen. And they actually go from ace to 10. So it's ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, blah, blah, blah. And then a lot of people believe that the Fool was actually turned into the Joker. So the suit of wands is the element of fire. Its characteristics are action, things are happening, things are moving. Think fire. There's a lot of movement in fire. There's a lot of creativity and ideas in the wands suit. The Pentacles suit is the element of earth, and it deals in material things. So this is going to be work. The Eight of Pentacles, for example, this is when you are very good at your craft. You've been doing it for a very long time. This could be your job as well. You're doing your work. You print your pattern, you knit your shawl, you enjoy what you're doing, you're reaping the benefits of what you've made. Maybe this guy is reaping the rewards of his company and the money he's making. So Pentacles is very much material things. It could also be body and health, depending on what the question is that the querent asked you. Cups. This is matters of the heart, people. The element is water. Pisces, lots of water signs in the cups. This is going to be love, relationships, heartache, emotion, emotion, emotion. The Two of Cups, for example, that could be thrown at the start of a relationship. This might be that super early beginning of a relationship when you guys have decided that you are a pair, but you're just getting to learn each other's quirks and idiosyncrasies, and you're kind of working through becoming a partnership. Partnership also, this could be a work partnership. There might be some emotion there. So that might be when you saw the Two of Cups in a drawing. And again, when you throw these cards, the reader's intuition plays a big part in this. A lot of it depends on the question that you're asking the reader, as well as the other cards that are thrown with this one as to how it plays in a reading. Swords. This is the element of air, and not probably one of the most loved suits in the tarot. There are a lot of lessons with the swords. You have to think swords cut deep, but they are also double-sided. This is the suit of logic and intellect. A lot of smart people will come up in swords. There's a lot of wordplay. There could be gossip or backstabbing. The Three of Swords, heartbreak. You see the swords cutting through the heart. Three of them. This could be an affair. Talking of the court cards, they say oftentimes represent an actual person in your world. Not always, they don't have to. Here again, it depends on what the cards are thrown with. In learning the cards, I found it helpful for me to associate with characters in movies that I knew. It helped me remember the cards better. So Queen of Swords, like I said before, that's going to be logic, intellect. The Queen of Swords can be diabolical, yet loving, cruel, very smart, sometimes too smart for her own good. She plays a great game of chess. She's very good at tactical thinking, very loyal, feels very alone in her thoughts because she knows that people see her maybe in a negative light, but at the same time, she's good at what she does. This might be a cutthroat boss. The movie character or show character in this case that I associate Queen of Swords with is Cersei from Game of Thrones, if any of you watch that, which I think a lot of people do. King of Cups, here again, cups, water sign, emotions, very heartfelt, loving yet firm. He's a good teacher of lessons. He's that teacher that can reprimand you, but not make you feel bad about it. You learn the lesson instead of feeling like he's talking down to you. He's very creative, charismatic, loving. You feel very comfortable around this king. But at the same time, he can be angered in the right situation. Don't think that he's a pushover. Don't think that he's soft. He might be soft in the middle, but he has the ability to be a badass if he needs to be. And the person that I think of whenever I draw the King of Cups is Dumbledore, for all you Harry Potter fans. Page of Pentacles. Again, Pentacles is material. We're going to look at those little entrepreneurs. Do you remember that little girl that used to make friendship bracelets on the playground and then she'd go out and sell them at recess? That's this little kid. He or she is very into making money and reaching their goals and working hard, and they're the ones with the lemonade stands. The ones that I think of for them in the movies, have you guys ever seen Problem Child? There's these neighbors, and actually it might be, is it Problem Child 2? No. Oh gosh, now I don't know. It might be Problem Child 2. There's these two little twin girls who are neighbors and they steal all the grandpa's stuff and sell it in a yard sale. That's what I think of when I see the Page of Pentacles. The page is typically a young person. Sometimes pages are often deliverers of messages too. So this could be like back in the day when you see those old movies where the guy sends the kid out to go deliver a message in the village to somebody. Like that's that kid. The Knight of Wands. Knights are usually adolescents or young guys. It doesn't have to be a young guy. This could be an older guy that acts like a young guy. You know, there's some of those 50-year-olds who have midlife crises and buy sports cars or whatever. That could be this guy. The King of Wands is action. We're all about action. He is ready to go. Look at him. His horse is up. They are raring to go. He's cocky. He's confident. He's maybe a little arrogant or comes across that way. He can be charming. Think of the guy with the knotted cardigan who plays tennis. He's very driven, adventurous. This guy likes to travel. In the movies, I think of Emilio Estevez in Breakfast Club just because of the whole cocky, sort of arrogant, the sports guy. So I wanted to give you just a little bit of the breakdown of the deck. I know when I first started, I wish somebody would have said that to me. So I at least would have had some knowledge of the basics before walking in. Instead, I'll show you how I started. The first thing I did when I wanted to get into tarot is I Googled tarot for beginners, right? Because how Tarot 101 is that? And I just started reading some websites, and then I started looking at tarot for beginner videos on YouTube, and some people I liked, some I didn't. Here again, just like our podcasts, you click with some people, some you don't. The gist of it that I got from a handful of different videos and websites is that when you're first starting out, Rider-Waite-Smith is perhaps the best choice. When you first start reading, you want to pull off of the artwork. Let's take a look at the Seven of Cups, for example. There's this guy standing in front of all of these cups filled with all of these awesome things that you want to know what they are, right? Like, what is all that stuff? What do you choose? Where do you go first? So we know cups is emotion. The way I would see this is, depending again on the question that was asked of me, somebody has a lot of choices happening. Are you trying to decide what the best choice is? So then I would look at the other cards. So that's sort of an example of how the artwork can help you. There are other decks that might just have like a circle and a triangle on them. Okay, well, if you have been reading cards for 20 years, and are very familiar with the cards. Maybe you are very in tune with your intuition. Maybe you're psychic. There are a lot of different ways that readers can use the cards. Starting out, they suggest cards with artwork because that helps you pull from your intuition. One of the exercises that a lot of people will do is they'll say, pull a card. Pull the lovers. Pull a card and write down your thoughts. What are you thinking by looking at that card? We have two people here. The dude's looking at her. but she's looking at this higher power right here. Is that an angel? There's a sun behind her. The sun is good, right? Bright, light, love. We have, this is obviously Adam and Eve. We have Eve with the serpent and the apple, or forbidden fruit. I guess maybe not everyone believes that's an apple. I don't know. I have read more than once that as a good exercise for beginners is to start a journal and just draw a card and write down your thoughts on it. It helps you get to know the deck, and it helps you pull from your intuition, like intuitively, what are you pulling out of this card? I also read at the beginning, which here again, you do what feels best for you. There are many different schools of thoughts on tarot. I'm going to talk about rituals later. Some people believe that you should not buy your own deck of cards and that it should be gifted to you. Well, if I waited for somebody to gift me a deck of cards, I would never have probably started reading tarot. You want to be able to pick a deck that speaks to you, the art on the cards that speaks to you. If somebody else picks a deck for you, it might work out great. Like, I don't know, they might have the best intentions, but you might not connect with that deck. So one of the things that was suggested in my reading is that at least for your first deck, go in person. Go in person and look at the art on the cards and see which one speaks to you. I am very fortunate to live in a place that has 2 metaphysical shops. When I first started, I was very scared to go into those shops. I'd never been in those shops. I didn't know how welcoming those shops were. Here again, relating to the fiber industry, there you will walk into a yarn shop and some of the yarn shops are beyond friendly and some of the yarn shops are filled with snotty bitches. It is what it is, right? I mean, we hope that that's not the case, but you never know. So going in completely not knowing what I was doing, I wanted something that felt a little safer. So my choice was Barnes & Noble. They have an entire tarot section and tarot decks. Now, it's probably a limited selection, but it worked well for me. I stood in front of the tarot section and looked and looked and looked and ended up picking a box set that came with this book and this deck. This is the Easy Tarot Handbook by Josephine Ellershaw, and this is the Gilded Tarot deck. This book is written for this deck. I read it from beginning to end. After I read it from beginning to end, because I had zero idea anything about tarot, I had no idea what made up a tarot deck until I started reading this book. I was on information overload. I felt like my brain wanted to explode. But you know what? I did what she said. Here's another funny ritual thing. She suggests in this book, in order to connect with your deck, to sleep with it under your pillow. You make the cards your own. You connect with the cards. I liked that idea. There's a book I'll talk about later. That author thinks that it's silly as shit to sleep with your cards under your pillow. Everybody's different. I personally like to sleep with my cards under my pillow when I first get a deck. I do feel like it connects with me. The other thing that they say is to house your cards in a cloth made of natural fiber. So what I did is I hand crocheted a tarot pouch with my hand spun, which Ditto has thus eaten. For all of you who are new here, Ditto is my 2-year-old pit bull who is a pain in the ass. He's very cute. He's very cute and I love him, but he's 2 years old, right? Terrible twos. He ate it. He also kind of altered my deck a little bit. Not bad, but I do have some lovely Ditto teeth marks in this. It's okay though. I cleansed it after he did it, so there's some Ditto energy in this deck. I did not freak out about that. The whole deck is still intact. He didn't rip any of the cards. There's just some teeth marks there. And the way I see that, if I have a querent who is asking me anything about their pets or animals, I would pull this deck to do their reading because it has some ditto juju in it. So as you're learning, you start picking up, I'm talking about rituals, you start picking up your own rituals. There are people who do no rituals, and there are people who do a lot of rituals. There are people who pick up a deck of cards, they don't cleanse it, they open the box, they immediately start shuffling with it, they throw cards. There are other people that they would feel nuts doing that. They're very ritualistic. They have to be in front of their altar, they have to light their candles, they have to meditate. They have to say the words that they say before every reading. Everybody is different. I'm, of course, somewhere in the middle. We're allowed to pick and choose what's important to us. It's one of the coolest things about tarot is that we get to decide what we want to do. So for me, regarding ritual, how I throw the cards, you learn this as you go. This is definitely a learn by doing. Reading tarot is an art, not a science. I've been reading for 2 years. I have barely scratched the tip of the iceberg. I just now started feeling comfortable doing spreads. How I learned is I drew a daily card for myself, and then I also did 3-card spreads. 3-card spreads are actually still my favorite spread. You can do maybe on a Monday, a beginning, middle, end of the week. You can do a past, present, and future reading. So my rituals include whenever I get a new deck, I do sleep with it under my pillow, wrapped in a cloth or in a pouch. I a lot of times will put it in a hat, something that I can ensure that the deck will not, like fly onto the floor, or that the cards will get separated. I always keep my decks together. There's something about the cards being separated that I definitely would not like. I always throw my cards on some sort of cloth that is only dedicated to tarot. I actually knit my tarot, no, I didn't knit it. I crocheted my tarot mat with a skein of Noro, and it is, I think, the best project I could have done with it. I absolutely love it. My tarot mat is one of my favorite things. The other thing that I do is I smudge my decks. When I first get my decks, I smudge them. When I do a heavy read, maybe some shit's going on, in the family, or maybe a friend asks you to do a read. If I smudge when I do a reading for others. I smudge them if I haven't smudged them for a while and I feel like my drawings aren't as good as they normally are. I will then smudge my decks. What smudging is, for those of you who don't know, that is where you take sage, smoke from sage. It can be incense. There is Palo Alto. I haven't tried that yet. It's like a wood stick that you burn. A lot of different people smudge, but the history of smudging is a Native American culture or tradition that they believe the smoke clings on to any negative energy that's in something and carries it away. It also works in a stagnant room. If there's a room that nobody's been in a while, there hasn't been a lot of movement in, I will smudge that room. A lot of times our spare room, it's basically Dan's closet, so it doesn't get a whole lot of traffic. We do laundry in there, that's about it. When I have guests coming over to the house, I will smudge that room to get that stagnant energy out of the room. Some people probably think that I'm completely nuts for doing that. I don't. That's part of a spiritual place that makes me happy and I enjoy going, and it makes me feel better. So you find what works for you. The only other ritual that I do with my cards is before I throw my cards, I set intention. I get in the right headspace. I might light an incense, not always, or a candle. I don't have to. I typically ask the universe to guide me and let the cards speak for whatever I or who I'm drawing for needs to be mindful of in that drawing. And that's all I do. Some people will meditate for a very long time beforehand. Some people light a bunch of candles. Some people will only draw cards at their altar. Some people might have certain passages that they say. Everyone's different. I see tarot as a very spiritual thing for me. I am a firm believer in karma and that the universe shows us what we should see. It's up to you whether you listen. The cards are one of those divination tools that helps the universe communicate with us. Not everybody feels that way. You might be somebody who thinks that that's malarkey and that's just fine. Like, you're allowed to think that. Everybody has their own opinion, and that's the beauty of the world. We're all entitled to it. You do you, boo. You do you. Okay, guys, we're on the home stretch. If you're still with me, I am going to very quickly show you my different decks and a couple books that maybe you'll be interested in, and we'll start there. You already saw my Gilded deck, and actually I am going to pull, let's see, what card should I pull? I'm gonna pull the same card from each deck, and at the end of showing you my decks, I'll show you the same card in every deck. And that way you can see how different art might speak to you in a different way, even though it's the same card. What card should I pull? Okay, I'm gonna pick the Four of Pentacles. Here again, Pentacles, the element of earth, and it deals with material things. So this guy could be greedy. He's made some money, so it's a 4. Another thing with tarot is the numbers mean a lot of things. The number 4 could be balance. Think of 4 table legs. The Ace of Pentacles would be the start of an idea. Maybe you have this business idea. Say you want to open a yarn shop. Say you're thinking, maybe you just had the twinge of an idea to open a yarn shop and you had your cards drawn and the Ace of Pentacles was thrown. That's that idea. I would say something like, do you have an idea of starting something, maybe something big that could make you a little money? I have this Ace of Pentacles here, material, it's the beginning of something. Okay, 2 of Pentacles, we've actually discussed it with somebody. We've talked about it to our partner, maybe our husband, or maybe you've approached somebody about opening a yarn shop with you. Okay, 3 of Pentacles, you've gone to the bank, you're getting this going. Things are moving along, you might have opened the business. 4 of Pentacles, you've made some money. This could work. I made a little money, but I'm not letting it go. I'm not letting it go. I'm gonna hoard it. I'm not gonna spend it. I'm gonna be very frugal, and because I don't know if this is gonna stick around or not. So that's the 4 of Pentacles. So I'll show you what that 4 of Pentacles is in the rest of the decks. So the Gilded deck was my first deck. And you saw the book, but let me just this helped me a lot when I was deciding what books to buy. So all books usually have spreads in them in the back. It breaks down each card and its meanings. One thing that I forgot to mention, in tarot, this is considered upright. There are some readers who only read upright cards. This book only gives you the upright definitions, and I use the word definition lightly. The meanings, the possible meanings. This only gives you the uprights. Sometimes you will throw what's called a reverse, and there are some tarot readers that read reversals. When I first started, I did not read reversals. It was confusing enough as it was to read the uprights. I just now started reading reversals. I will read reversals with the Gilded deck. There are a couple other decks that I do not read reversals in, and I'll show you why. A lot of people are really picky about the artwork on the back of the cards. You can't tell what's upright and what's reversed in these cards. The other ones, you can. And those decks, I only read upright. I just feel like they're meant to be read upright. Not everyone feels that way. Again,
You do you.
my next deck was the Wildwood Tarot. I will start out with saying this was not a good choice on my part. However, I'm a firm believer that the universe gives you what you should have. The reason I say that perhaps this was not the best choice for my second deck is because I was still very new. Like basically I still didn't have any idea what I was doing. I did not feel comfortable. Like I said, I've been reading for 2 years and I just now barely feel comfortable. The reason that this deck spoke to me is because of the artwork. In your research, you will find that there are light decks and some dark decks. Like a lot of tarot readers will say, this is a pretty heavy deck, or I do readings with this deck when I need a little tough love, or I pull this deck when I need a softer answer, things like that. This deck makes me want to sit out in the woods at the farm. I'm trying to record and Dan's staring at me and making me feel weird. I chose this deck purely based on the art of it. It is not a Rider-Waite-Smith system. So this deck was authored by Mark Ryan and John Matthews, and the illustrations are by Will Worthington. A little tidbit of extra bonus information. Mark Ryan, who authored this deck, is the voice of Bumblebee in the movies. The Transformer movies with the car, you know, Bumblebee. Yeah, sure is. He authored a tarot deck, and it's this one. This tarot deck system is based on the Wheel of the Year. So the system is completely different than the Rider-Waite-Smith. I love it. I'm so glad I have it. The art on these cards make me so happy, but I will tell you, I don't pull it very often. I'm really concentrating right now on the Rider-Waite-Smith system so that I can better learn it. However, there are times that I pull this deck. This is the deck that I used for my moon draw, for the Blood Wolf moon draw. This is the deck that I chose for that. I just feel it's very fitting with the Wheel of the Year. Let me stop talking about it and show you. The imagery on this deck is absolutely beautiful. These cards are different than the Rider-Waite-Smith cards. For instance, the Green Woman is comparable to the Empress in a Rider-Waite-Smith deck, but it's just different. I didn't confuse myself, but I did make it harder on myself because I was trying to learn both systems at the same time, and that was dumb. So I still have a lot of learning to do with this deck. So the way I do it is when I pull these cards, I will first do the reading intuitively, and then I'll look at the book and see what the book version says and see how far off I am, things like that. Let's find that Four of Pentacles in this deck. Even though it's different, we can't really, this isn't apples to apples, this is apples to oranges, but a lot of them are similar to the Rider-Waite-Smith. It is different. So just know that if you really like this deck, it's a different system. In this deck, instead of pentacles, the author uses stones. So this is the Four of Stones, and as you see on this deck, it says protection. It has a keyword there. I have also trimmed this deck. I cut the borders off except that bottom border, and that's because I did not want to lose. And I also edged this deck. So instead of white, it is you can't really see it, it's a bronze. The reason that I trimmed this deck is because it was very large and didn't fit very well in my hands. So for this, the Four of Stones protection, we have a shelter of 4 stones with a fawn in the shelter being protected from the elements. It looks like there is a sun setting in the background and there's desolate land out there. So similar to the Four of Pentacles in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, which is somebody holding on to their money because they're protecting it, because they don't want to lose it. In this deck, we are protecting life. Maybe the mom left this little guy there while she went out and did something dangerous, like try to find food, or maybe to get him out of the elements. In a drawing, maybe somebody needs to protect a child. Maybe someone feels that they need protected. It would depend on what other cards are in the drawing with it. We see the sun setting back there and the stars coming out. You know, maybe darkness is getting ready to fall and we need to get to a safe place. Maybe the querent is in a bad place. Maybe some dark times are coming and we need to find our safe place. Let me just flip through. This is a nice big book. And you can kind of see I've highlighted when I was studying. So I read these books. A lot of readers, YouTube readers that you see will say, I immediately throw out the book. I never look at the guidebook. And they do everything intuitively. They don't care what the book says. They pull it all from inside. I don't like that way. I like to see what the book says. But everyone's different. That's my point. So what I do is I will read the book. I will study the book. But when I'm throwing the cards, I don't necessarily get it out. I read it intuitively first, and then I read what the book has to say before I make my judgment. And a lot of times your intuition is spot on. So just throwing that out there. My next deck was a for fun purchase, and I found this Truth and Story. I believe her name's Kelly from Truth and Story. She is one of my favorite tarot YouTube people. And the reason that she's my favorite is because she is a wealth of knowledge. She also does deck reviews and deck walkthroughs, and that's where I found this deck. A lot of your tarot people on YouTube will do readings. I don't watch a lot of readings. I do watch readings, but not for the readings. I mainly watch for the learning aspect of it. I like to see what other readers feel the meanings of the cards are, or what their intuition is telling them from the cards. Now that I know the cards a little better, I find that very interesting. Kelly from the Truth and Story, though, while she does readings, you can pay her for readings. I don't know if that, I don't think it's what she does for her full-time job, but she is very, very into the tarot world. She is so knowledgeable, like she's way over my head. She talks about stuff that I have absolutely no idea what it is. She reviewed this deck for fun, and it is the Zombie Tarot. This is one of those decks that I only read upright because I just feel it should be read upright. This is based on Rider-Waite-Smith. I love the Fool in this deck. Remember the Fool earlier I talked about? He was like, la, 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 and completely oblivious. Look at this guy. He is tra-la-laing through a cemetery, and zombies are busting up out of the ground, and he's completely oblivious. He's just heading with his little picnic basket somewhere. Let me find the Four of... Oh, actually, I do not believe this deck does Pentacles either. Instead of Pentacles, this deck does Hazards. Here's the Four of Hazards. So we have this guy who is, it looks like he has locked himself in his bunker with all of his food, and he can hear people trying to be inside. And those aren't even zombies. Those are regular people. So there are people trying to get in. Have any of you watched Bird Box? That's kind of the same. That's John Malkovich. He didn't want to let anybody in. So he's in there hoarding his food. He's safe. He's safe in there with his food. He's, he has his food and his guns, and the zombies aren't going to get him. He's not letting anybody in. So there we have a little bit of that greed, a little bit maybe. He's out for himself. He's just looking for himself. Now, earlier when I was talking about the journey, that's not going to last forever. What's he going to do when he runs out of food? So if I pulled this in a reading, I might say, okay, you're keeping your cards close to your vest right now, but you can't do that forever. So you're going to have to decide what your next step is, because that'll work for a minute, but you know, you're not going to be able to sustain that forever. So you might want to think about the next step on your journey and how you're going to get there. This is the book that came with the Zombie Tarot. I'm showing you these because I want you to see a difference. It's very small. You're not going to get a lot of direction. You're not going to learn from this. But I would not pick this as your first deck. It's an awesome deck. I love this deck. I get very good readings off this deck. So if you're into zombies or in all honesty, the reason that I bought this is because Dan likes zombies. So I figured that Dan would like this deck. And in the process, I found an awesome place for it in my collection. My next purchase was my little pocket Rider-Waite-Smith. I got this out in Arizona over Thanksgiving. And the reason that I purchased this is because I wanted a nice travel size deck. I liked the pocket edition. And I also wanted Pamela Coleman Smith's art. I wanted that original 1909 Rider-Waite deck. So that's why I purchased this. This Four of Pentacles is hilarious. Look at this little dude. So he clearly has a lot of money. He has a crown on his head. He has a kingdom behind him. Because of the history, because of maybe the time period, I have a very like Mad King holed up in his castle feel from this. I definitely get a lot of greed out of this guy. But that's just my intuition. You might see something different. And that, my friends, is the beauty of tarot. This is the guidebook that comes with the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. At least this Rider-Waite-Smith deck. There are probably other beginner decks. Maybe if you got the full-size version that would come with a better book. But that's what you get. Again, if someone who has never read tarot before ever in their life bought this deck and expected to learn from scratch out of this, you would probably be very discouraged by it. My last deck is my newest addition, and it is my Tarot in Wonderland deck. This is an awesome deck. This is also one that I only read upright. The art on this deck is all, let's see, what is that? Oh, that's the Death card. I don't think I've ever looked at that. That's the Death card in Tarot in Wonderland. Let's find the Four of Pentacles. Another thing that you will hear people talk about in deck reviews is the card stock. This is very easy to shuffle, almost a little too flimsy. It is also very glossy. A lot of people don't like that gloss. The Zombie Tarot, very thick cardstock, very matte finish. I love that about it. Real quick, I had to show all my fiber peeps the Queen of Pentacles. She's knitting. There are also other decks that have, I've seen spinning wheels, drop spindles. So love that. And she's a sheep. I mean, not only is she knitting, but she's a sheep, yo. Good grief, that took forever. Four of Pentacles. We have the sleepy mouse in the tea. They have his tea and biscuits. That's interesting. This is a new deck for me. So there are a lot of these cards I haven't even seen before. And I am very, So fours, balance, pentacles, material, earth. He's hunkering down. He's maybe a little bit of protection. He feels safe in there. Maybe instead of being greedy with his money, he's being greedy with his time. Let's see what the book says on this one. It's so different than any other Four of Pentacles. He's not hoarding money. He doesn't look like he's being greedy about anything. Let's see what the book says. The book that came with this deck is amazing. I mean, if you like Alice in Wonderland and you like to read, you don't even have to read tarot to like this book. Super color glossy pages, very cool book. And I watched one review, one of the readers reviewed this, and she was like, what a waste on that big book. I'm not even going to look at it. I'm going to throw it away. I was like, oh. So it just shows you how everyone's different. This is a really cool book, especially if you like Alice in Wonderland. The way this book is set up is at first they have something called Through the Looking Glass, and that's like the story, where they pulled this card from the story. Then they have a section called Down the Rabbit Hole that says what the card is. So this says, in a reading, this card lets you know that things are at a standstill. The energy and resources in your life are not flowing. They are not completely true. Resources may still be coming in, but the longer you hoard them, the more slowly they will flow. You may be saving for something out of fear for the future. That's fine and sometimes sensible, but if you are unsatisfied with the amount flowing in, you should do something to get things moving. Even moving something from a long-term savings account to a more active investment would still allow for savings, but also create a different flow. That's the key here. Find a way to move the energy while still achieving your goals. Otherwise, you will sit there, never increase nor decrease. Keywords: possessiveness, guarding and managing resources, saving, protecting, stewardship, and hoarding. I'd have to sit with this card. I don't get that out of this card. That's where the study comes in. This is one I would have to sit with. That's super interesting to end on, too. I'm digging it. I'm digging it. So here we have the Four of Pentacles in all of my decks. The Gilded deck, the Wildwood Tarot, whoops, the Zombie deck, the Rider-Waite-Smith, and good old Tarot in Wonderland. Are you guys sick of me yet? We've been here forever. Last but not least, I'm going to talk to you about a couple books and how I feel about books. When I first started, I bought tarot books just to buy tarot books, and that was dumb because I didn't like all the tarot books. A lot of the tarot books did not fit with my thought process. I didn't like how they were laid out. I just didn't like them. So my suggestion to you as far as tarot books go is the library. You can go to the library and look through the books, read the books, see if you like them, and if they are worth purchasing to put in your own library. Barnes & Noble. My Barnes & Noble actually kind of sucks. They have tons of decks. They have tons of cards, and they barely have any tarot books. So yours might be better than mine. Any bookstore, I guess I should say that. Any bookstore, go thumb through them, check them out, see which ones you like. And then also YouTube, best tarot books, my favorite tarot books, top 10 tarot books, and watch and see the people who flipped through them, reviewed them. There might be ones that you like, ones that you don't. I'm going to show you a few of mine that I like and I was glad that I bought, and I'm glad that are in my library. We have Tarot Tells the Tale by James Ricklef. Did I say that right? Ricklef. This is explore 3-card readings through familiar stories. The reason that this book, I mean, look at it. Those of you who watch my podcast, you remember that day I told you that I got totally wasted when I went to Mexico and passed out by the pool for a few hours and I got my knitting all wet? This book was in that bag as well. So this is Travel to Mexico with me, and it was soaking wet. This book is cool. Whoever this dude is, sorry, James, I'm, like I said, new to the tarot world. He wrote an article for some tarot journal newspaper thing, and the article that he wrote, he would do a fictional 3-card draw for people that you knew, like Snow White, Belle from Beauty and the Beast. I think Cinderella might be in here. The Ugly Duckling. He writes it like a Dear Abby column. So like the Ugly Duckling would write a letter and then he would reply with a 3-card spread. It's awesome to learn with because you know the people who are writing and you get to see how a reading would go. Like the querent writes a letter and it's one you know, like the Ugly Duckling, and then he does a drawing and replies with his drawing. So I really like this book. I learn a lot from it. The next book is Tarot Wisdom by Rachel Pollack. This is meaty, very, very meaty. What I use this book for personally, everybody's different, is when I really want to understand a card. If I'm really not getting a card from my other resources, I will pull this out and really read it. Or if I want to know more about a card anyway. So this is not a book that I would read. Let me flip through it for you. This is not a book that I would read from beginning to end, but this woman has been reading tarot forever, and she is basically brilliant and knows way more than I will ever even pretend that I am ever going to know. Great resource to have in your library. This book is all spreads, tarot spreads, because like I told you, I just started looking at spreads or just started kind of reading spreads. This is filled with spreads. And I wanted ideas of spreads to try. The beauty of this book is I got it used on Amazon for like $4. So always look for the used stuff. It doesn't have to be a new book. If you go to the library and you find a book that you like, go to Amazon, you can buy it used. Almost always. I always buy whatever the cheapest one is. I don't have to have a new book. I actually kind of like that somebody else had it. And this came from Goodwill. So did this. This came from Goodwill as well. A lot of the Goodwills have their books on Amazon now selling used, which is kind of cool for even if any books, not just tarot. My next book is Kitchen Table Tarot. I love, love, love this book. She is awesome. She is the one who, Melissa Cynova, she is the one that thinks sleeping with your tarot books are stupid or tarot cards are stupid. She, well, maybe not stupid. She doesn't recommend it. She is also a person who is not big into the ritual of, like, she throws her cards at the kitchen table. She used to do drawings at the bar. She can draw on the back seat of a car. I wish I would have found this book at the beginning, but I'm super glad that I have it now. So highly recommended if you like to say shit and stuff. Last book, Tarot and Astrology. One of my favorite YouTube channels is Intuitive Pathways. Her name is, I want to say Veronica Ray. It's in my notes. Hold on. Yep, Veronica Ray. Intuitive Pathways. She does drawings. I love her drawings. She knows all of the tarot and astrology correlations. She can throw a card and be like, water signs, Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio, this is for you, blah, blah, blah. It's hard to learn from her just because her readings are so fast, but she reads just how I want to read. She says it and she moves on. It's super quick. She gets to the point. I wanted to be better at tarot and astrology, so this is a new to me book. I just got it with my Christmas money and I love, love, love it. This, my friends, is the conclusion of the tarot video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it made sense. I hope that it's everything that you were hoping it would be. And let me know if you decide to get some cards. Until next time, my friends, cheers.